Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into what became a staggering crisis for California state parks.
Hmm.
You probably remember the bombshell back in 2012. $54 million, just hidden
Right.
funds.
That figure really caught everyone's attention.
And it came out while the department was publicly saying, we might have to close 70 parks.
Exactly. Which naturally spurred a lot of private donors, nonprofits, to step up with money and effort.
People felt completely duped, right, and
Uh,
frankly betrayed.
Understandably so.
But here's where it gets really interesting for us today. That $54 million, as shocking as it was really just kind of a visible symptom.
Just the tip of the iceberg, really.
A symptom of these much deeper systemic issues that had plagued the department for years. It was widely called scandal-ridden.
And that label wasn't an exaggeration. What's fascinating, as you said, is how those hidden funds were just one piece. Our deep dive today goes beyond that number to try and uncover the underlying causes.
So what else are we looking at?
Well, you'll discover there were other, maybe less publicized instances of financial mismanagement
Yeah.
and some pretty serious personnel misconduct, and overall, a really deeply ingrained cultural problem.
A culture that resisted transparency.
Actively resisted it, yeah, at pretty much every turn. We'll even look at how this whole difficult environment led to major leadership changes.
Including Major General Anthony L. Jackson. He was brought in specifically to fix things, wasn't he?
That was the mandate, yes. To right the ship, as they said. But even that faced significant hurdles.
Okay, so our mission here is to give you that shortcut. Pull out the key nuggets from this whole complex mess. We want to help you understand not just what happened, but really why it mattered so much for, public trust and integrity.
Exactly.
So let's start with how deep these problems went, maybe on the financial side first.
Sounds good.
That hiding of millions in the State Parks and Recreation Fund, it wasn't some mistake.
No, the investigations called it a conscious and deliberate act.
And it stretched back. How long?
An incredible 15 years.
15 years.
Wow.
And the motivation behind it, what drove that?
Well, it seems to have been driven by this fear. This fear that revealing the surplus would lead to further reductions in the department's already diminished general funding.
Ah, okay. So a kind of defensive crouch. Hiding money so it wouldn't get taken away later?
Exactly. It points to a really, perverse incentive structure you sometimes see where being transparent actually gets penalized.
Right. So withholding information becomes almost a survival tactic instead of, a major ethical breach.
Precisely. But the financial mess wasn't just those hidden funds.
What else?
Well, sources show there were unauthorized vacation buyouts, cost taxpayers at least $271,264.
Unauthorized buyouts.
And also, over $500,000, over $500,000 in payroll overpayments to employees, just over a 3-year period.
Overpayments. How does that happen on that scale? Were these just clerical errors?
Apparently not just errors. The findings pointed to management overriding controls.
Meaning they deliberately bypassed the safeguards that were supposed to prevent this?
That's what overriding controls implies, yes. Established financial procedures were ignored.
Wow. So it's not just hiding money, it's actively mismanaging or misdirecting what they did have accounted for.
It paints a much broader picture of financial irregularities, yeah.
Which makes you ask, well, what kind of culture allows these kinds of deliberate actions to take root and fester for so long?
And that, I think, is the absolute crux of it. If you connect the dots, it highlights this really deep-seated cultural dysfunction. It was described using terms like a fortress mentality.
Fortress mentality, like circling the wagons, resisting any outside scrutiny.
Exactly that. And also an ossified staffing structure.
Ossified, meaning rigid, hardened, difficult to change.
Yeah, an internal bureaucracy so inflexible that, well, change or accountability became almost impossible.
So this wasn't just about money then. It seeped into how people were treated too.
Absolutely. It went well beyond financial issues into personnel problems.
You mentioned misconduct earlier. Beyond the overpayments, how else did this kind of toxic culture show up?
Well, a really critical example is the Angel Elba discrimination lawsuit.
Okay, tell us about that.
This was a significant case. A jury actually sided with the plaintiff, Mr. Elba, and awarded $2.3 million in damages.
$2.3 million. Why?
The case specifically highlighted a toxic workplace. And crucially, the complaints were routinely never responded to nor investigated.
So a total breakdown in handling internal complaints. Harassment issues just ignored.
It suggests that, yes, not just an isolated incident, but a clear signal of systemic problems in the workplace culture and how they dealt with or failed to deal with serious complaints.
It really does sound intractable. Which brings us back to Major General Jackson. He comes in, mandate for reform, facing this enormous $1 billion deferred maintenance backlog.
$1 billion just in needed repairs. Crumbling trails, visitor centers, campgrounds.
Just essential park infrastructure falling apart.
Nope.
So what were the biggest obstacles he faced? Why did external commissions still end up suggesting more outside leadership after his efforts?
Well, despite his decisive leadership style, the sheer scale and just the deep-rooted nature of the problems, the systemic and cultural issues, they were just incredibly formidable.
Too entrenched.
Extremely entrenched. He faced immense resistance internally. So even with his efforts, these external commissions looking into the department still concluded they needed new leadership from outside the traditional parks and recreation talent pool.
So not just another parks person, someone completely external.
Right. And they also called for a fundamental cultural transformation. It wasn't really seen as a failure of his individual effort, more a testament to just how deep and widespread the rot was.
So, okay, bringing it all together.
Yeah.
What does this all mean for us thinking about this case?
Yeah.
That scandal-ridden label, it was clearly way more than just the $54 million. Right
Oh,
now.
absolutely. That was the headline grabber, but it reflected a much more profound crisis of integrity.
A culture of concealment, resistance to change, just thriving.
Yes. And you had, as we discussed, the deliberate hiding of funds for 15 years out of fear. You had unauthorized buyouts, payroll overpayments due to bypass controls.
And the toxic workplace issues highlighted by the Alba lawsuit.
All stemming from that dysfunctional culture, that fortress mentality.
Which leaves you, the listener, with a pretty stark question, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When an organization's core culture is that resistant to change, that resistant to transparency, how much external pressure, how much new leadership does it really take to fundamentally turn things around? Remember